Welcome back to the Mind Your Newness channel. I'm Apostle Steve, and today I am going to walk you through my sketchbook practice. I highly recommend it. I'm going to show you mine, and let's get started. Okay, folks, before I show you my book, let me tell you a story how this all got started. I was in my studio, and I guess I was just rummaging around, and I found this sketchbook in a pile of papers off to the corner somewhere. And I said, you know what? We're going to do something fun in this book and do a video about it. You know, I'm into collage work. I've done a lot of collage paintings, and my collage work is often very intentional and very controlled. So I wanted to do something fun, do something expressive, and just kind of let loose and be spontaneous. This was the first piece that I did. I did a video on it. You know, it was very fun. But after looking at it for a while, I said, you know what? I want to do some more of these. So I kept going. And when I work spontaneously, I really do work spontaneously. I just grab anything and anything at hand and not much thinking about it. I just plop things down and have fun with it, see what happens. And as you can see, more of the same. I use cut paper. I use paper that I've painted on or made marks on, printed papers, magazines, old sketches, whatever I could find, I would use. And pretty much I would do like a layering process to make a composition and, you know, to see what comes out of it. All these like pink markings that you see is oil pastel. So I really use a bunch of different mediums and I try to make it work. But you can also see that it's very busy. I guess that's how my mind works, you know? So these are all from 2024. You know, I wasn't consistent. I was just take this book out from time to time and do something in it. I didn't really start getting consistent until I saw the work change a little bit. Here's another one. I used some cloth here, house paint, bits of old scrap papers, old sketches that I would repurpose, and so forth. Spray paint. Sky's the limit with collage and expressive work. But at this point, I think I was trying to find a way where I can kind of pull back, because I even noticed as far back as here how busy my collages were. You know, I was trying to figure out a way to pull back and not be so busy, because as you can see, there's, you know, very interesting elements, but they're all over the place. And especially here, you know, here, the two pieces of material were competing, and I remember putting the white down over this area just to kind of tone this orange down. So, you know, at this point, I was definitely trying to find a way to pull back, but I'm so spontaneous that I can't help myself sometimes, and I have to keep putting down a mark. Like, these marks are finishing marks, and as you can see, they're like all over the place. Like, to me, anytime I found an empty space, it had to be filled. And what I began to think upon is like, well, how can I not do that? Right? How can I kind of leave alone some of these empty spaces? And that was my big struggle. I really, really had a hard time just letting things be. I would come to a point where I thought I was finished, and then I would come back and put a mark. I would leave it alone, then I would come back and do some spray paint. Then I would leave it alone, and then I would do some other markings or something. Anywhere I found an empty space, I had the urge to fill it. And I began to notice that. I began to discover that. See, when you keep a sketchbook, when you keep a record of your work, you begin to discover things about your practice and about your habits, right? This is a little bit of a departure, but not much. I decided like, okay, this is going to be a monotone collage. I took a painting that I found that was destroyed, and I kind of ripped it up and made a composition out of it. and it worked pretty well. But again, um, the markings, I just felt the need that, oh, I got to put a mark here. I got to put some marks here. I was begin to understand that I need to pull back, but I couldn't fight the urge to do it. So this was a beginning in a new direction, but I felt like I wasn't quite there yet. And here I went back. I guess you could say I backslid. I used a lot of photocopies. I would paint like little marks on bits of paper. This is like newsprint paper right here, or just splatter paint, and you get like very, very interesting designs, right? Here, I let some of the white space behind the collage breathe a little bit, and I began to start using minimalize my colors. So you can start to see like little changes here. Like even here, I probably could have left all this white. Again, the urge to fill in space, was a big struggle for me, and I think it's okay. I think it's a good piece, and I think that you're starting to see a progression here, but I still wasn't like there yet. Now, I think this is the first time where I began to understand the power of shape and how to position shape. So even though these are the same, it works. It might have worked better if this was um, a solid color or something. But you can see that I'm starting to pull back, but still some of my old habits arise, especially with the markings. Looking back at this, I don't think all this was necessary, but it still works, right? Same here. I'm pulling back. I'm being a little bit more minimalistic, if you want to say, but I'm still fighting the urge to fill in spaces. And this isn't a collage, but I was more intentional with the use of my colors, right? So green, black, yellow, and red. That's all I worked with. And, I used some creative markings here and there. Still, I'm starting to pull back a little bit, right? I think if I was to do this over again, I probably wouldn't go so heavy on the black on this side. Maybe I might have left this alone, but this was like a whole empty space over here. So I was like, something needs to go there. You don't have to fill in every space, right? This is what I'm beginning to learn. You can allow your colors to work with one another, and you can allow the white to show through, and let your work breathe if you can do that. That's what I'm learning for myself. But again, I wouldn't have gotten here from here unless I had an intentional sketchbook practice. So you could see how the work is starting to evolve and change. Now, this one too, I was all over the place with the paint. There was all these markings, right? And what I did was I took some white. I mean, this was like very, very complex with all kinds of shapes. It was very, very intricate. And what I did was I found two areas which I felt were interesting, which was this area, which was very different in this area. And I said, I'm going to keep that. And I took some white and I covered the rest of the piece, even in some areas over here. And so I filled in this area. And basically what happened was underneath this white is the original painting, and it starts to show through. Some of the markings show through, and it's very subtle, but it adds to the piece. So what I'm beginning to understand is that this layering process, if you take some white and brush over the areas that are not needed, you can reveal the important areas that you like in your piece and make those dominant, which I felt was this and this. Probably this mark over here wasn't needed, but it's there and it works, right? Also, my use of color is very limited. You notice you have a big shape here, but you got these little shapes over here, and it gives it more of a balance. If I had two big shapes on this side it probably wouldn't work as well. And I think the sketchiness of the lines on top and underneath works well with this. So you can start to see a shift again in where I'm going. This one too, I started out with very intricate lines and shapes and was all over the place. And what I said was, okay, I took the two dominant areas that I felt was strong, which was this area over here and this area on top, and I'm going to work with that. And I went back with the green and I covered everything else up and just left a few markings here and there. Now, there were more shapes in this area, and basically I just went over it with the green and cut them down, made them smaller. So I got a big shape here, little shape here, big shape, a shape of contrast over here. So I'm really thinking about contrast. I'm really thinking about minimal color and how everything will tie in and flow together. It was hard, but painting over the work and retaining some of the pieces that I liked was a good exercise. And this was the last piece that I worked on. And the same thing here. It was more intricate, and I just took the areas that I liked, which was this white that was showing through and this green, and I used minimal color to make it happen. And then some very light markings, right, all throughout the piece. But I made sure that this area, this red, was bigger than this. Because they're complementary colors, they kind of vibrate when you see them together. So I'm going to continue this practice. I've learned a lot just working every day in my sketchbook, and I pray that you guys start a sketchbook practice too. Okay, folks, so the last thing I want to leave with you guys, and I just want to stamp this: don't be afraid to go back over your work while you're working and rework certain areas. Don't be afraid to totally destroy a piece and start afresh. Remember, when you're working in your sketchbook, it's not final, it's practice. You're exploring, and you're going to learn a lot about who you are as an artist, your temperament, and where you need to go. So a lot of things are going to emerge as you continue on with a sketchbook practice. So whether you're a painter, you draw, whatever it is that you do, definitely keep a sketchbook. That's where you're going to have your greatest growth, and it's going to bring understanding and clarity to your work. If you like this video, please like, comment, and share. And don't forget to subscribe. I love you all. Yahweh bless, and I will talk to you again soon.